Uncommon Threads, Wabanaki Textiles, Clothing, and Costume brings together for the first time the beautiful but little-known textile arts of the Wabanakis. Beginning in the winter of 2009, the State Museum's Chief Curator of History, Laurie LaBar, teamed together with textile specialist Marion Scharoun and modern-day Wabanaki textile artisans Frey, Jennifer Neptune, and Tomah. Together, this group of talented artisans used historical techniques and materials to meticulously recreate an outfit from the late 1700s that was worn by a Maliseet chief. The reproduction, based on a fragile original in the collection of the New Brunswick Museum, includes a cap, mantle, also called a matchcoat, sashes, breechcloth, and leggings, and will be displayed when the Uncommon Threads exhibit travels to museums in the U.S. and Canada beginning in 2011.
This is Laurie LaBar. I'm a curator at the Maine State Museum, and I've been involved in reproducing a man's outfit from the 1700s with a group of artisans. We did the work in a room that was right off the Uncommon Threads gallery, so the public could come in and see what we were doing and talk to us about what we were doing. Matchcoat's a word that probably meant clothing, and it refers to the mantle or the cape, which is a big square of wool, red wool, Stroud cloth, and then it has silk ribbon. These original ribbons were absolutely beautiful. They had a strand of flowers woven into the center, and then they had 3 strands of silver thread woven into the edges. It's only one of 3 such outfits that have survived in their entirety. There are just the capes, the mantles, a few of them survived too. And this is also the only one that's Wabanaki. Is gal Frey, and she's a Passamaquoddy beadworker, and she and her whole family make baskets. Is Jennifer Neptune, she's a Penobscot beadworker and basket maker. Marion Scharoun, we call her Tuesday. Is Tomah, and she is an elder in the Maliseet tribe. We need to have this done by June, and I don't really know how long it's going to take. It's not fast work, but it's faster than I anticipated. This week, we had to spend the time to really look at the object and the reproduction and the pictures that we have, and really try to make sense of it all. We had everything sorted out and measured and ripped and all that, and strategized. Because there's little things that we're not making. This isn't a plastic object. We're not making a, ka-ching, cookie cutter version of it. So we really had to talk about different aspects of it. Like there's a sash that has silver brooches on it, and there's lots of places where there used to be silver brooches. How many of those are we going to replace? We decided as many as we can. Every place we can see there was one, putting one in, and every place there's evidence that there were some, we're going to put them in. And they might not be exactly in the same spot in the middle of the wool, but we're not going to worry about that. This is a picture of one of the leggings, and you can see that there are these extra little, I don't know, I'm calling them tails or feathers, I don't know what they were called, but they would have floated, the silk ribbon would have floated, and a lot of them are damaged, so we don't know how long they were. So we needed to talk about all those types of things before we started cutting and sewing. So this has been a real logistics week.
All of us traveled to New Brunswick to see the original in the New Brunswick Museum, and that was really special to get to see. Yeah.
This is gal Frey, and working on a pair of leggings, and the leggings are made of wool, as is the whole outfit, and then they have silk appliqué ribbons and little extra diamonds of applied wool, and now she is making the little diamond shaped accents around the wool. And Jennifer Neptune is working on the legging. Each side of the legging has very, very different patterns. So I guess you could wear them, switch legs, and have whichever pattern you wanted face out. And there are the tails of silk, if you see on the lower part right to the right of her hands, those was just floated free, and there's some at the top and some at the bottom. And at the end we trimmed those down a little so that our fictional person wouldn't have tripped over their little tails. So right now she's sewing down, it looks like she's sewing down the wool. Make sure that's nice and clean before she makes another strip of beadwork along it.
It's going to look really nice with that white on it.
Yeah.
Can you pass the wax?
Are they about the same, do you think, as the originals, or are they?
No, these are smaller,
Oh, they are.
which to me is nicer.
Yeah.
When they're really, really small, you get eye strain. So it's been an hour and 20 minutes on these two, so it's taken me a little more than a half hour on still. The first one I beaded on top of the red. And this one, I caught the edge of it and went down.
Okay.
Because it was a wider strip.
All
But
right.
when I cut the second piece, it wasn't quite the same width. But in order to make it look the same, I put it on the edge so they look the same.
Okay.
So I'm just tacking it down. I'm not doing the stitch that they probably used. I'm doing my own stitch. They probably strung that whole thing and then it's tacked down.
That's not how, you take a stitch and then you thread them on and then take another, is that how?
And then take a bunch of beads, tack them on, then go back through and overlay.
That's the way I do it too.
Actually, probably it secures it better to me, but I don't know. You know, I guess it doesn't matter because.
Yeah, you can't really tell the difference.
Yeah. After I do the whole thing, I can go back through the beads again and just to get that one a little firmer line. The elaborate designs are done
The way that we do it, yeah.
the way we do it, yeah. I mean, like when you look at the flowers or stuff like that, even they, do only 3 at a time.
Sometimes you can plan it out and it will do something totally different by the time you're done. Sometimes I just start and see what happens.
All right.
That's how I do some of my pieces, the beadwork. Blank slate, and then just pick some colors I think I want to use, and then start with that. Yeah, sometimes I don't get to use all the colors I wanted to. I put something else in there. What she's going to be doing now, she's going to be applying the fringes together so that they're all twisted. It's going to be very handsome. Spin them one direction, twist them the other, and that will lock the cord together so that you get that real pretty twist in it. Two-ply twist. And you don't just have to do it works the same way whether you're using wool yarn or you're using bast fibers from elm bark or whatever you're using. It's the same thing. We decided we wanted to have it be as if the leggings had been completed. The original leggings weren't finished. And we decided that we would have them be the way they would have been 200 years ago, 250 years ago, which is that they would have had these cords that brought brought the leg, we're sewn to the top of the leggings and then looped around the waistband to hold up the leggings a little bit. And then she made garters, which would go around the knee. So our guy's going to be a little bit different, but again, a little bit more accurate in terms of how it would have been worn.
Are the garters going to go above the knee or below the knee?
I think they're just below the knee.
That makes more sense. It would stay up better.
Well, for me, it all started with books. I was kind of a bookish kid, and my mother worked at the University of Maine, and so I used to go to the library over there a lot, and I would go into their special collections and different books and kind of research the Penobscot and Wabanaki stuff, and they had really amazing, photographs of things, but I had never seen them in real person. I had never been to someplace where these things were, and so I kind of got interested then in, doing reproductions and trying to bring some of it back. And from that, I went into, I actually got a job on Indian Island making jewelry, beaded jewelry, and then I taught myself how to do the beaded applique work that they do on the old pieces, and I went into anthropology in college, just to learn to research a little bit more and how to get into the museums and see what they have in storage. And sometimes on the old pieces, if you look really close and you study, you can see where someone stitches different than another person, and you can tell what they worked on, or the pieces and the parts. A lot of times, like when you see the collars and the cuffs, you can tell that two different people worked on it. And I think that was probably the way it was done. What do you think, Al?
Yeah, it seems like it.
People shared the work.
I think that when we looked at that original, that you could tell evidence of that. We were talking about the different stitches.
Yeah. Some people stitch tighter, smaller stitches, and then some people have a looser, longer stitch that they do, or maybe the beadwork is, lays flatter or is a little more skilled than on another part where maybe someone wasn't, was just learning.
We've been just on the legging, probably at least 7 days, full days.
It's for one person.
Wow.
Two people
Well,
worked
actually,
on it.
today is a half a day.
No, you worked on that
She
from the
worked on it.
beginning.
Yeah.
That's the one that you guys both worked on. You
Yeah.
have the one that she worked on.
Yeah. Stitch in the ears. Is that a good stitch, Susie, for that section? Is there something better, or is that?
That's probably, I couldn't see it because it was under the ribbon, so.
Yeah, that's right, it's not gonna show.
But then I think, along that edge, the ribbon's going to go
Right over it.
right over it.
It's like the other side where it overlapped a little bit. Do you want me to pin it the way that I did it? See how that's overlapped?
Okay.
And then it goes to whip stitch.
This way.
The original was made with silk ribbons, and they were easier to get back in that time than they are today. It's kind of a specialty thing now. And so Laurie couldn't find the ribbons in the right size and the right patterns. And so she had silk fabric dyed to match the ribbon colors, and then we ripped the silk into the ribbon sizes. So that's a little different because we're having to turn it under and stitch the edge.
Rose Tomah, is quite a sewer, and she's actually working on the most complex piece, which is the cap. All the other pieces are made of rectangles of fabric. The only piece that isn't a rectangle is the cap, and it's all these sort of V shapes of fabric. And there's, I think, 4 different colors of silk ribbon on it, and there's ears, and then we put a little bit of a stiffener in the ears to make them stand up a little better. But it's by far the most complicated piece. Jennifer did sew the pieces together, and now Rose is applying the silk ribbon. This piece was the trickiest too, because it was the only one where the silk had to go in a curve. So we had to kind of try and ease the silk, because we didn't think about that ahead of time and do it on the diagonal.
So did anybody in your family, Rose, did anybody make potato baskets?
Just my husband's father. He used to make a whole bunch of potato baskets, and they'd come over and get them in a truck before picking time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And his mother made fancy baskets. And there was fish baskets.
Yep.
Like the one that's in the attic?
Oh,
Is it a
no.
fish basket? In this attic?
You knew about where the fish basket came from, right?
Yeah.
You knew where that came from?
Yeah,
Okay.
those were in Jonesport.
I had it all matched up, but where it puckered, it doesn't match now.
Where was it supposed to go to?
It's supposed to end right along here like this one. See? See, I don't have enough
You
now.
could add another little piece on.
Doesn't look
Does that have beads on it?
Well, I'm checking it
I
now.
think it does,
Yes,
so we
it
might be
does.
able to,
You want to leave it and
I think we're going to be able to
cover it with the beads?
cover it with the beads.
Let me
You
just
think
see
so?
where they are, because I think they're not there yet.
But it looked good here on this side, but
Oh,
as
yeah,
I
yeah.
went around, and when I'm cutting the little pieces, it kind of kept puckering.
Oh, yeah. I think that'll be all right.
You think so?
I think we'll be able to take care of that when we beat
you
it.
put the beads
Yeah.
on, yeah.
Yeah.
It's in the,
Yeah, but that's my work. Look at it.
I know what you mean.
See, Jen? What do you think, Bill? Just add on a piece and make a new one, put a new one on.
I would add on a piece because I could still cover that. See, now that was there. So when you sew it down, we can pull it up.
But what about your beads? List the beads.
That'll be even more cover.
Okay. All right.
Do you see what I mean? So we can move it a little.
Yep. All
And-
right.
Because there's a row right down the middle, and then there's diamonds
Okay.
all around those.
All right. That's what I'll do then. Well, I've been doing embroidery on pillowcases, bibs, and stuff like that. But I'm a sewing machine person, so this was my first time doing something like this, and I really enjoyed. I thought I wouldn't, but I do.
Yeah. There's a couple of people that are doing some of the simpler things, like a lot of people are seeing a lot of beaded dream catchers. You know how they do an edge around them? I know quite a few people that are doing those. It's a simpler technique that people have been doing, but not too many doing any of this.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of patience and a lot of time to, go research this stuff.
And you have to have that desire from the beginning to even want to look into it.
Yeah. Yeah, because even to see this stuff, you have to know who to call. You have to make the call. You have to make the arrangements. There's like a process to it, even to get access.
I'm working on the breechcloth and hemming the edges under on the side. And the breechcloth is of dark blue, very dark blue wool, and then with strips of colored silk. And then eventually, I think it was Gal who wound up putting the beadwork on there. So here I am just starting to turn under the silk on this side. Here you can see the rough edge of the silk. We had to use just pieces of silk that we then ripped because that would give us fewer frayed edges than cutting. So I'm trying to turn this under so that you can't see that little raw edge, and then I'll stitch it down. So we had to do that with all of the silk. And we were very lucky. A woman in Farmington who does a lot of fiber arts was able to give us matches of the fabric. There's a lot to this, and there's a lot of beads on it. Not a lot by, I mean, it's not like they're teeny, tiny, but there's still a lot of them.
Is there any beadwork for the breech club?
Yes.
There is.
But it's pretty simple. It's this.
Oh.
And this
yeah.
looks like it's double here, but it's not. It's the two pieces are on top of each other.
Couple hours.
Yeah, that won't be too bad. Luckily, I don't think the Matchcoat has any beadwork on it.
Well, in my adult life, I just started it as a hobby. My children were young and at home, and I wanted something to do that wasn't baskets because my family were basket makers, so I thought I had to do something different. So I taught myself how to bead. I had a friend that taught me how to make some earrings, and then I just took off from there and taught myself the rest. So I've just been doing beadwork for about 20 years, and then I, gradually went on to baskets, but I've been more and more intrigued by doing replicas or I try to incorporate some of the old, like the double curve designs in a lot of stuff I do. Just to have that still alive, still being done.
Yeah, you might get a phone call and say, hey, you might come down and work at the museum on a project? You're like, who is this?
Who's this?
How did you get my name?
Is that what you said, Rose?
Yes.
She didn't say it that way, though. She was very polite.
Yeah, I told my husband, I said, some woman called me.
Some woman.
I couldn't remember your name. I'm not very good in remembering names.
I'm bad at remembering. Three down, 112 to go. They think this one's older based on the wool. It's a slightly different weight, it's a slightly different weave, and it doesn't have the same nap at all. Here's 3, and then here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 that are missing, and then another 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11 that are missing. This was probably the part of it that was on display. On both sides, the silk is rotted a lot on this end compared to this section. And where the silk is still intact under the brooches because it didn't get the light. The ring brooches are very petite, as they're supposed to be. And the wool is very thick. So with these, I'm just putting them on by measuring sort of proportionally as opposed to exactly, so it's so many times the width of the piece. Hoping that'll work. Will this work? Last time I found that out by accident, so I'm going to try it for real.
So you're just going through you're going through everything?
I'm going through everything. And I'm coming up through everything. And then once I have it like this, I can turn it over like this. And then it comes, pull it up with the pliers, theoretically. Voila.
Voila, piece of cake.
So it looks like they go all the way around, close together like
Close
that.
together like that.
Wow.
And this is wider. It looks like they're going jig-jag. So I'll have to, I'm gonna have to just make sure I have enough because I got a few extras. But there aren't many in the middle here, and there may have been once upon a time, but I'm gonna make sure we have all of them in the silver first.
This is the sash. Well, I started at 1, so what time is it now?
It's almost 2.
Not quite two.
Yeah, an hour.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was hoping to get at least 1 row done before I leave. I probably will do it. But the beads are like 3/8 of an inch.
Yep.
I can make some time.
The way that they used to dye the wool back then, in the 1700s, and they would have a big piece of white wool and they would roll it, right, they would
Yeah.
attach it somehow to a rod or something and then dip it in the dye. And so when it came off that, there would be that white strip along the edge where it didn't get dyed. And she couldn't find that on the modern stuff that's available today. So she had someone special dye the wool so we could get that edge.
This is the cape, just starting, and it has, 15 rows of
15 rows.
Yeah.
this, and it's really quite long, so.
She can be on that until June.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not moving very quickly either. On the original, the selvage shows below the bottom, and I thought maybe I started too far up.
I think it's fine.
George,
I think
the
it
red
shows the list very well.
Thank you very much.
Isn't that going to have a cover
No, it
layer?
doesn't. It doesn't. At the bottom.
That one doesn't. Everything else does, but that one doesn't. Tuzi is very, very, very careful. She's a conservation technician that we work with, and she's worked on a lot of our projects and flags and things.
So my strips are coming out different widths.
Don't
Okay.
sweat it.
So
It's
the original
okay.
is 2.
Well, as long as each strip is consistent.
Right.
Well, I'll take a measurement here once in a while and make sure that that we're equidistant, that it's not getting too out of line.
And then after we go about, like, how many are there? 13 or something?
15.
15 stripes? Well, after we get to about 10,
We have to do the,
we have to figure out the width.
right.
Because the looms were, the looms that this stuff was originally woven on were narrower looms.
Well, I've worked off and on at the museum on other projects, sewing projects, and I worked to help set up the Uncommon Threads exhibit initially. And Laurie asked if I get involved in this. She knew that I sewed. I've done some reproduction work in horse carriages in the past. So, I'm interested in trying to reproduce techniques. I was a little bit familiar with how to find some of the traditional materials, like wool and silk. And I had a little bit of experience in that.
I didn't know a thing when I started here. Now I know a lot.
You're a quick study.
Yeah, I do. But I watch people. I learn quicker than when I would read anything. I'm self-taught in everything. When I Somebody shows me something.
So are you going to make yourself a Pete's cap for
Yep.
us?
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
Yeah. I'm gonna make a pair of moccasins too. I got a lot of, I bought some suede from the Amish. But it wasn't cheap for, a piece. But
Do they have deer hide or do they have?
no, they don't order that anymore. So I had suede, not very thick. It's dyed. They got I've got brown and I've got black.
What we're doing over here, the original had really, really fancy ribbon. And it had a woven band of flowers in the middle, and then on the edges it had a silver thread. And so we're embroidering, we're just doing a running stitch, embroidering silver thread in it to give that little bit of glint of color, of light that it would have had originally. We've come from really different backgrounds in terms of how we approach the work, and it's been a lot of fun trying to sort of come to the same conclusions about how to proceed on certain things. And we've really let the outfit sort of guide us in a way, let things evolve. It's not an exact, perfect inch by inch reproduction of the outfit. It is its own thing. And I think that the original owner would have been delighted by the results. We talked about a lot of things when we were together. It was a lot of fun, talked about different strategies, but we also talked about what the women who were working on this would have talked about in the 1700s, which was our families and how things were going in our daily lives, that sort of thing. And it was nice to think about who the original maker was and what she would have been doing, or they would have been doing. But we talked about what her life would have been like when she was making this, trying to make it probably in a wigwam without any lights. Maybe she made it in the summer, and so she could work outside in the sunshine. We talked about all that sort of thing.
I think just, women getting together and creating something, one thing is a great, no matter,
It's a wonderful thing.
when, where, or
Yeah.
what. It's part of what goes into it.
Again?
Speed up. Don't ask me how to spell it. Look it up in your dictionary.
I will.
So this is gonna stretch.
Moving on.
You want it up off the floor, right?
Yeah, about an inch probably.
Is he gonna have feet?
No. He's not gonna have feet. We haven't done the whole moccasin thing.
Does that look even?
Yeah, it looks pretty even.
Well, the other guy doesn't have.
The other guy doesn't have feet either. I'm thinking too, I should get some hook and eyes, you know, just to hold the.
What about wings?
Yeah.
Would you flatten that or?
I just sort of overlapped it.
Mm-hmm.
Or should we?
That's a good question.
It would be this way.
And then fold it back? Because they should be sewn together, so they'd be, yeah, then they'd be folded back. The ones on the bottom, I like the ones on the top, I think are
Those?
Okay.
We'll put the address on here.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
That's all right. Breaking his handsome face.
Who wants to cut?
I just went right down to the floor.
That's yeah. That's perfect. Yeah.
Maybe these can get ironed down or something.
They'll start falling down with, oh, when we fold it up.
the ties are great.
Yeah, purple in the middle.
Yeah, because they crossed over.
Okay.
Almost crossed over each other. Put it down a little lower. Yeah, there.
He probably likes it. It's probably pretty boring in here.
Yeah.
That's a little attention, huh?
Okay.
We have the other mannequin in the back room.
Next.
In the way back room. And every time I go in the back room, I think it was a person. I'd be like, oh, excuse me. Yep. Listen to Auntie Rose. She knows.
Because the narrow goes with the narrow and the wide goes with the wide. See what I mean?
It's a totally different feel here.
I think we had the purple. Yesterday we had the purple coming down like a V.
No, that's what I was thinking.
Yep.
Just want to take pictures.
Tell me where to put it. I'll put a pin.
Okay, right there.
Okay. Okay, that's a pin.
Pin on the other.
I've got it with my finger and pin on the other.
Okay. Now, natural.
Can you pull it up across the front of this left side one more?
Oh, I missed it.
Oh, darn it, I'm sorry. Natural.
It doesn't have that nice curve again with the. Look at it.
What do you think?
Put his head back.
Oh, his head. That's right. He doesn't have his head on.
Okay, you were.
I can't reach it.
It's kind of tall for me.